So when many people think of SCIAF, instantly their mind goes to the wee box appeal, which has been a huge success across Lent over a number of years. But many people don't realise the true extent of the work behind SCIAF as one of the Bishop Conference's charities. And so we're delighted today to welcome to Moss End in the Sanctus Studio Bishop Brian McGee, who's Bishop President of SCIAF, and Lorraine Currie, who's the Chief Executive of SCIAF. So both welcome here.
Thank you.
You've been travelling about the world recently, Bishop McGee. You've been obviously to the Synod of Rome and you've been to Zambia. So what was the purpose for the visit to Zambia?
Well, we went, there was 4 of us went together, and 2 staff, Ash Gallagher, who runs the project in Zambia, along with Lorraine, and then 2 board members, another Lorraine and myself. And it was just to go out to see what was happening there. They've been suffering from a terrible drought for some time now, for a few years, and it was just to see what impact is the work of SCIAF been having there, and has it helped, and in what way has it helped, and what more support can we give.
So how is SCIAF just now? What's the kind of base? Where are you based just now? What kind of staff have you got? What's the kind of processes? Because a lot of people will hear the name SCIAF and they'll not necessarily know what's behind the scenes, so maybe you can explain that kind of structure.
Yeah, of course. SCIAF is the Scottish Catholic International Aid Fund. We are the official agency of the Bishops' Conference. We'll be celebrating our 60th anniversary next year. Of course, we started in a classroom, I think it was in Rutherglen, and we have been moving around, but recently we moved into the diocesan offices, so beside the cathedral, to a smaller office, mainly because, with the lockdown we don't need big spaces and it's more money going to the people we serve. The rent is a lot more reduced, and we feel really welcome there. So we have about 38, 39 staff. I think it's really important for people to know SCIAF doesn't have offices overseas. We don't have staff overseas. We very much work we're guided by Catholic social teaching, so subsidiarity. We empower local people. We're invited in by the local bishops' the local bishops' conference into any country. We just don't appear in a country. We're really guided about where the need is by the local church and the local people, and we always work through the Caritas network. Because although we are, SCIAF, we are also, if you see below, Caritas Scotland. Caritas meaning love. And there's a Caritas in every country in the world, nearly 165 of them. And we belong to that global network. So when we enter a country, we always really work through the local Caritas, the national Caritas, which is, they're all the charities of the Bishops' Conference in every country. And that's how we work. We don't want to disempower local people, and we want to build their capacity because they have the knowledge and the skills about their own culture and context in church, and we facilitate that. We don't see ourselves as donors giving money and dictating. We see ourselves as brothers and sisters in partnership, and we have mutual respect, mutual understanding, and mutual decision making. And it's very much about the communities that we work with and serve. Those people know what they need more than anything.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we don't impose. When we design any project or any intervention, we always go to the grassroots level and we meet with the communities, and they tell us what are our needs, what's our strengths. Because these people have a lot of strengths, a lot of knowledge, and based on that, we design the project in that way, from the bottom up and not the top down. And we empower them to run it, to manage it, to evaluate it, and we learn from them and they learn from us. It's very much a journey. The other thing that's very important to these people that we serve is their faith, of course. 95% of the people we are serving have some kind of faith. As I said, we serve people of all faiths, people of none, but they have some kind of faith. And it's not separate to everything else that we do, and one thing that people can also do for them is to pray for them. You can give, but you should reflect and you should also pray. And usually from my experience when we were in Zambia, And the sister said to me, how can I say to these people they're starving? How can I bring God to them? And she says, I can just be present with them. I don't need to, have a big long sermon. Just being there with them, be still and know I'm here, it is an amazing thing. And they want our prayers as well as our help. But they want our help so that they can eventually help themselves, and we can eventually come out. Because we work with communities for a long period of time, we get them self-sufficient, and then we leave, and then we go to another community. Yeah.
One of the things I was going to say, mate, we don't really reflect on it as a nation, how vital the work has been. It's an incredible thing for Scotland. It's come from Scotland. I think, was it your predecessor's also now the head of Caritas International? Is that?
Yes, that's
correct?
Yeah.
So what kind of role does he have in that kind of area and tying them all together? You're all in unison with.
Yeah. So basically, each bishops' conference is to have an aid and development agency. So ours is called SCIAF. Other countries, it'll just be called Caritas Zimbabwe or whatever. But it's the same idea, and they're all linked with each other. So all the different Caritases of Europe are part of a union, as it were, and they'll help and advise each other, support each other, and likewise with the other continents of the world. And then there is the international one, which is based in Rome, and Pope Francis, I know, takes great interest in that. And so our previous director was voted by the fellow members to be the director of the international Caritas. So that would be an overall, and they would help support also and keep the contact between the different Caritases, so that they're able to, as Lorraine said, we're able to go right into a country because we've people there already. That's the thing, there's people there already. So we're not jumping on off a plane. There are people there that know the place, that know what's needed, and they're their own local contacts. We can trust them, and people know their money is safe, and it's a great thing.
Lorraine, what is the specific problem in Zambia that, for people in Scotland, they might not even know where Zambia is. They've heard the name but don't know where it is. What's the challenges there?
Well, Zambia we've been working in for over 40 years. It's a kind of landlocked country in the south of Africa, and its main problem right now is it's having disrupted weather patterns. They're having the worst drought that they've had for 40 years, and no water means that their crops fail and they can't live, because the majority of them are subsistence farmers. They farm their own food, their own livelihoods, and that's a big problem. And the other big issue is if they don't have water, they use the water from the lake there to generate their electricity, so then they don't have electricity. As well as having this drought, the year before they had a big cyclone, all linked to climate change, and that destroyed quite a lot of their buildings, their structures, their schools, and SCIAF is there doing two things. We do emergency work, so if it's a cyclone, we will rebuild some schools, some buildings, maybe give them emergency food. But long term, we need to make them more sustainable. We can't just be giving handouts all the time. We want to give a hand up, and so we do long term farming with them and do methods where they can adapt their farming and crops and the ways that they get water to try and mitigate the impact of climate.
One of the things it's hard about understanding for people who give to charity is that they give money to charity and the money's gone from them, but they don't see the impact. But you've had the privilege of being there with the people in Zambia. How do you see firsthand, my lord, the direct impact for people's donations here in Scotland?
Well, on our first day there, we travelled out to a village out in the bush, maybe about an hour and a half we travelled, and there was a school had been fixed. The nearest school was 9 kilometres walk away, so they described it themselves as being like a latrine, the condition after the floods and the cyclone, and it had been rebuilt, and the school roll had increased, so that was giving hope to the community and aspirations for the parents for their children. and we listened to testimonies from one of the pupils as well as the staff. And then we also, just beside it, was a rebuilt maternity unit. And again, we heard testimonies, first of all, from a lady who had given birth before the renovations, and how terrified she was. She thought she was going to die. She thought her child would die. There was just sand on the floor. There was just tarpaulin was put on the floor. There was no lighting in it. It was incredibly basic. And at that stage, the care workers only visited once every 3 months, and she would have had to have walked over 20 kilometres pregnant into the city and back. And now we heard the testimony from another lady who had given birth since the work had been done, and it was just completely night and day. A concrete floor, proper beds. There was a solar panelled lighting in it, so even at night time there would always be electricity there, always light, so that people could see what was going on. So it was, and we listened to the testimonies of the people, and you could just see what fantastic things had happened because of the partnership from people here in Scotland with the local Zambians.
That's incredible. And you mentioned obviously the situation with mothers who are pregnant. We're coming towards Advent. I think we're still in early November, but you can't escape the shops and the trees and the Christmas markets. So we're coming towards SCIAF's Advent appeal. So I know everyone focuses on the Lent appeal, but what is the particular appeal for Advent this year, Lorraine?
Yeah, we are really focusing down on this maternity unit that we helped rebuild. It had been completely destroyed by the cyclone, and you know, Africa suffers from the biggest mother mortality rate. More mothers die giving birth than in any other continent, and it's a major issue for them. And just rebuilding this unit is going to change their lives. They're going to be able to give birth in a safe and dignified way. Because as Bishop McGee has said, prior to that, there was no window, people were walking past, and they were trying to give birth. So this is in a clean and a safe environment. And we are, you know, we think of Our Lady when she was looking for somewhere to give birth and she ended up in a stable. And then, you know, that was a major event, the birth of Christ, and the birth of any child is a beautiful thing. And we are really hoping to help these mothers going forward all over the countries where we work. And our Advent appeal will really be focusing on this story. And it's a wonderful story because all of us, you know, we love our children. As God loves us as children, we love our children more than anything, and to have a safe birth is probably what we all want. Whether you're a woman or whether you're a man, you always want your child to be born in a safe and dignified way, and to be born healthy. So we think this is a major part of SCIAF's Lent appeal.
It's a fantastic thing, really incredible. How do people get involved with the Advent appeal? What can they do to fundraise for this particular cause this year?
Well, there will be a letter going out from myself to supporters and to other people, so that's one way, and people can donate directly. Also just through the real gifts and things like that, all these things help. So yeah, there will be a particular a particular campaign during Advent, just talking about what we experienced, what we saw, and the difference that's been made by people in Scotland, and how this can be continued in other places as well.
Fantastic. And the final kind of thing really is to say, what would your message be coming up to this campaign, or to those who have maybe not been involved with SCIAF so much, or maybe those who are maybe not even Catholic who see the work of SCIAF? How do you get involved? What's your message to them?
I think their message to them is that there is a great need there. It's not a never-ending need, because we know that our approach does work. We saw that in our recent trip to Zambia. So giving people the knowledge, the skills, the tools to help themselves, lift themselves out of poverty, giving them a voice to speak for themselves, eventually, you know, they will be self-sustaining. Because when we were in Zambia, we visited communities that hadn't been given that knowledge and that skills and that intervention, and they were really struggling. Whereas the ones that had been given that, had worked with SCIAF, they were still struggling with the drought, but they were still able to maintain their livelihoods and diversify those livelihoods. So our method does work. So in giving their money, I think they can be assured that we're doing the best for the people that we serve, and that our big focus is that we empower them, that they become, agents of their own destiny. And we do a lot of monitoring of that work, and we're assured that every penny does go to the people in need where it can do.
Yeah. Well, when we first went to Zambia, the first few days we were out in the bush, and it really struck me how, after years of drought, it was just field after field after field of failed crops. And I remember standing at the edge of one of them and just looking, and all I could see was dead roots. And I thought to myself, I wonder, how did the people feel when they realised these crops are going to fail? And I kind of connected it with how people felt in Ireland at the start of the famine, when the potato blight was moving through the counties, and they waking up and realising, my potatoes have failed, how are we going to eat this year? And so later on, I think it was the next day, we were with a group of women at a water borehole that had been provided by SCIAF, and I asked them, look, you don't have to answer this, but would you be willing to share with us how you felt when you realised that the crops were going to fail? And they gave different answers. Some of them said, I cried, I had a deep sorrow, a deep pain in my heart, and I understand we can't eat, my children don't. And one of them said, I trust God, I pray to God that He'll bring rain, but God also works through people. And I thought, that's so profound, because that's what SCIAF is. That is people who are open to the gospel and are bringing the gospel values. So, and that is the people who work at SCIAF, who are professionals, who are whatever field they're in, whether it be in communications, whether it be visiting schools, whether it be in the projects, whether it be answering phones, the finance. They're bringing that professionalism and sharing that. Or whether you're the parish priest who's encouraging people to support SCIAF, or whether you're the teacher in the school, or whether you're a parishioner and you're giving something, even small, to SCIAF, that's all part of that response, and God is working through you. So that's the message I would have for people, that we're all doing different things in this, but we're all being agents of God. And what I found, listening to the people again, when I asked them, what difference has SCIAF made to your life? And it was amazing what they said. And we could see that not just had they taken on the new knowledge that they now had, just the new skills and etc. that they'd learned, the new facts about organic farming and stuff, but how it changed their lives, their communities, their domestic lives were better, the gender violence had greatly reduced, and also that they were innovating now. They were not just taking on the knowledge that they'd been taught, they were actually developing it and starting new things that had never been taught, but they knew we can do this. So and also the other thing that I found super impressive was, in the middle of this drought, they were saying, who are the poorest people here? Who do we need to help? And I thought, gosh, could I have done that? Because I'd be thinking my family comes first. Yeah. But they were actually saying, no, we've got to look after everyone. We've been blessed with this knowledge. We have to share that with everyone. And that is just God working through different people, whoever they are, whatever the religious background is. That's God at work and people being open. So to me, that summed up what SCIAF is all about.
That was wonderful. It's very uplifting to have you both in today. Absolutely in awe of the work that you do. Got out there to those countries, and if those who are watching, we'll encourage them absolutely to, if you're watching this interview, to say a Hail Mary or a Decade of the Rosary for the work of SCIAF. Also consider volunteering and donating to that really, really important work that makes a difference, and something we as Scottish people can be proud of. coming from Rutherglen and growing up to what it's been today. So thank you, my Lord Bishop, for coming in to Moss End. First, I think it's your first time out here in Moss End.
Yeah.
And yourself, Lorraine, you're known to Lanarkshire anyway, so that's fine. You're a native, so but thanks for coming out as well. So that's been great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks for having
you.
us.